Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. While Finance Minister Arun Jaitley was bold enough to announce that the government may look at a strategic stake sale in national carrier Air India, the question is, who is going to buy the debt-laden airline? Air India has amassed a debt of 50,000 crore rupees over the years, half of which is on account of buying costly aircraft beyond its means. Air India, which has a fleet size of 114, mostly Boeings and Airbuses, is estimated to have booked operating profit of 300 crore rupees in 2016-17, almost 3 times the 106 crore rupees recorded in 2015-16. The government will infuse 1,800 crore rupees from 2017-18 union budget after pumping in close to 24,000 crore rupees between April 2012 and March 2016 from taxpayers' money. But it will take ages for the Maharaja, which is the mascot of Air India, to make net profits and cleanse its balance sheet. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze if the government should exit or rather sell Air India. Joining me on the program today are Ganapathy Subramaniam, Chief of Bureau, Puthiya, Thalaimurai, retired Air Vice Marshal Kapil who is also an aviation expert, and Rajesh Sharma of the BJP. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Air Marshal, I'd like to begin with you. Of course, there's been a lot of talk about, the government selling off Air India. There's been talk of the Niti Aayog talking about disinvestment in Air India as well. What's likely to happen, and should the government really sell Air India?
I think the larger question has in a sense been addressed already in the new aviation policy. Unfortunately, outlining an aviation policy without talking about Air India is whistling in the dark, as somebody said. And I think Air India in that policy is the elephant in the room. You have crunched all the data, I don't have to repeat, but Ganapathy Raju, Ashok Ganapathy Raju, the Union Civil Aviation Minister, said, and these are his words, Air India books are bad. We need to do something about Air India. We don't want it to go under, but we cannot have public money being pumped into Air India for eternity. These are his words. Jayant Sinha, we should think into, that's the number 2 minister in the civil aviation. All this is in the last 3 months. He says we should consider divestment. The chief economic advisor to the finance ministry, in effect the government of India, Mr. Subramaniam, has said Air India must now look into being part of a system where accountability and principles of marketplace are brought into business. I mean, it's no rocket science. The government has no business to be in hotels. It has no business to be in airlines. There are some factors historical that this is a growth industry. It has a strategic significance. In case of a conflict, Air India gets marshaled to fly in troops and fly them out. But that's gone now. You can today, under the Civil Aviation Act, you can actually commandeer all the private airlines to fly from A to B in the case of a profit, in the case of a conflict. My second point is, you covered the data. My second point is the causes are not exactly sort of analyzed in objective, dispassionate manner all these years. What is it, for example, that impelled this decision to let the 2 airlines merge? It was a thoughtless decision. We are paying the price even today, and this is 10 years old scheme. Secondly, the personnel. I mean, look at the age profile. Globally, the age profile for an airline is 28. Air India is 48. Number of employees per aircraft is 4 times the number of employees in Singapore Airways. So you can't be profitable. And now when you talk about buying aircraft worth nearly 60-70,000 crores of rupees, when your basic equity is 145 crores. I mean, this defies any logic. I'm talking about the causes. I think this is the time, as you rightly said, to bite the bullet. Reading of the tea leaves seem to suggest that the government may be serious. But we have seen this happen in the past. You recall 2011, when our current president was the finance minister and headed a group of ministers as to what needs to be done to the Air India, and the group of ministers' recommendation was privatize it. He said this remit is beyond the capacity of the group of ministers, and the matter was shelved. I also want to highlight for the viewers, Frank, that the decision to buy these aircraft, 111 aircraft for nearly 70,000 crores, was not done by a rogue MD. It went through all the multiple agonizing chain of decision-making channels, going all the way to Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs. So there is some serious problem in the decision-making, and that needs to be now reviewed, and we need to consider, there are 3 or 4 quick options. I've spoken too long.
Is a major burden as far as the government is concerned. Will the government continue to support Air India, or things are going to change this time around?
I think the taxpayers' money, the hard-earned money of all of us, which we pay as tax, cannot be drained in pumping amount into Air India. I feel so. And at the same time, BJP government had an idea always of maximum governance by minimum government. So I don't think there is any business of being in business of the government. So it is never the sense in which this government should run. Disinvestment, privatization, whatever way it is, it should get rid of this type of losses in which this taxpayers' money is getting drained off. I can say that yearly 4,000 crore rupees is being paid as interest. So that is a huge amount. Operating profit has started coming in from 15-16. Prior to 15-16, if you check 13-14 and all, definitely there was 2,000 crore operating loss. So definitely operating loss has come down and operating profit has started coming. So some efficiency has shown in last 2 years, but that will not suffice with a burden of 50,000 crore of debt, a huge mountain debt which is lying on Air India. I can say a lot of bad decisions which were taken in past are the ones which had accumulated in this bad debt, and this debt is creating problem. So debt equity ratio is quite bad. So now the government need to think either on one of the options, whichever is possible, but they cannot pump in further money. I can say, as you rightly said, that 22,000 crores have been pumped in last 4 years. How can that be? So further there is a plan of pumping in this similar amount in another 20 years. How can that be? It is never possible for the government to, because the government has collected money to serve the people, to serve the poor and needy. It cannot be drained in this way.
Fair enough. You know, Ganapathy, a lot has been said about, the aviation industry, and the government should not be getting into sectors such as the civil aviation industry, or for that matter, hotels and everything else. With just 14% of, air share as far as Air India is concerned, will anybody really miss Air India?
The era of government airlines is gone, and it's not going to come back. If Air India or Indian Airlines was in the hands of a private management, would they have allowed losses to mount to this level? Would they have ever dared to borrow 50,000 crore?
We all saw what happened with Kingfisher Airlines.
Yes, and Malaya is now sitting in London, and everybody is in hot pursuit. Similarly, Indian Airlines and Air India were in losses for a long time. The government knew it, and the government is also responsible for it. One after another, the government was appointing only IAS officers to head it, while all the time talking that we should also perform like private airlines, be profitable, stand on our own legs, etc. But nothing was done. And now this government also, nothing has been done. They are continuing with the same policy of the UPA of infusing money into the airline. And today what they have done? Instead of a IAS officer, they have appointed a IRS officer. Maybe yes, he is a good guy, he has a good track record, he did very well in ITDC, etc.
But that's not enough, is it?
Make a change. Even he doesn't probably believe, if you ask him very honestly to say that can Air India be turned around? No. For 4,000 crore for debt servicing. Every year if you give 4,000 crore for only for as interest, when the total turnover itself is some 22,000 crore only, and expenditure is 25,000 crore, you are already making loss of 3,000 crore, and about that you have to provide for depreciation. It can never be made profitable this way. So they have to go for surgery. It cannot be treated by giving aspirin and anasin. It has to they have to go for surgery, write off, do privatize. When Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, the same NDA government, previous NDA government, they tried very seriously. About 26% almost sold to Singapore Airlines. That time Air India was separate and Indian Airlines was separate. But due to bad politics, that was dropped at the last moment. Then they decided to merge both, and over and above all that, add so many aircraft, buy so many aircraft. When you are not able to manage whatever you already have, you are buying more. And then you are saying the government keep on paying. Air India, till the time it believes that the government is there to bail me out, my survival is not at stake, it's never going to be profitable. The government must privatize. Recently, one good news I heard is that out of the ITDC hotels, now they are decided to take away Ganapathy from the group and convert it into a government building, or instead of hotel business, they will do some other business. So similarly, Air India, they have to take a solid decision. So far, bad economics, bad business, backed by bad politics. At least now, sense should come into the people who matter, the finance minister and the prime minister, and they should take a decision to write off partly the debt and then give it to a private partner. Let it be an Indian company or a foreign company. How does it matter? As long as the burden is gone and the airline is run in a commercial, profitable manner, it's fine. Privatization should be done without any further delay.
Privatization should be done is what Ganapathy is saying, Air Marshal. But who's really going to buy Air India in the current situation that it really is in? How do we sell off Air India?
No, let me sort of lend a specificity to the larger point that is being made, and you have a panel which is all pro, privatizing Air India, and so I be the devil's advocate and express contrarian views for purposes of analysis. The viewers must analyze. Number one is there is a national security consideration, and that is the VVIP aircraft of the President, the Vice President, or the Prime Minister. India projects itself globally. The Prime Minister's flights must be in secure communication, especially quick decision making in the event of a conflict or probably a nuclear crisis or something. That's what people talk about in the rest of the world. We have already ordered, the Government of India has ordered on behalf of Air India 3 aircraft which are Boeing 777-300 extended range. This enables Prime Minister Modi to fly directly from New Delhi to New York rather than go through 1 or 2 places en route. That's the first one. Secondly, the Boeing 747s are now 30 years old, 40 years old, not safe for the travel of the VVIP. Where do they go? At the moment, the decision is this aircraft will be bought for Air India. Air India will operate them. And whenever, as in the case of the 747, Prime Minister, Vice President, President are required to travel outside of India, beyond the range of the aircraft with the VVIP squadron, which is in Palam, then these aircraft will be requisitioned. I think it's not a bad step in that sense. That's the first. Otherwise...
But why would you need a whole fleet to just run 3 aircraft?
No, it's not a fleet. The fleet exists for normal passenger traffic. These aircraft also do normal passenger traffic, but they have very special counter missile capability. They also have very special communication, very top end communication, perhaps the same standard as President Trump has. His aircraft will come only.
But just for arguments, just to understand exactly what you're saying, can't we just run these aircraft independently? Why do they need to be a part of Air India?
I'm glad you asked me. I was coming to that point in a second.
One small submission.
Yes.
Air Force One is not run by Continental Airlines or American Airlines. And our Air Force is quite capable of running these VVIP aircraft.
Who flew the Prime Minister of India for many years, right from...
Certainly, yeah. So
but the point there is this will be wasted because how many visits are done? Firstly, Donald Trump travels far greater. Secondly, American economy is so much that an R&D they spend on defense R&D is 4 or 5 times the budget of Indian defense. So you have to look at the scales. He can afford to keep an aircraft on the ground. We can't afford to. So it remains, it flies passengers like Frank and you and me, Ganapathy, Mr. Rajesh. But when the PM wants it 2 days before, it is, sort of Marshal for. I think this is a good decision. But we could also take the decision, make them as part of the Air Headquarters Comscotten, which as it is has business jets or the Boeing 737 and also Embraer aircraft which we imported from Brazil. My second point is, you know, there is a certain valuation of culture, of associated structures of the nation. India is still poising itself on the global stage. So an airline for some more time may not be a bad idea. But the critical idea is not privatization. One can say privatization, but what does it mean? And let me suggest. Number one, how it can be done. I go by what Jayant Sinha said, the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, divestment. Like we can do for Vistara, like we do for AirAsia. Government has some stakes, those countries and the airlines have some stakes. We can do the same for Air India. And your question as to who will come in, it's not such a bad proposition. In the worst case, we can go for the option Ganapathy has just put on the table. In any case, you have to put 25,000 crores over the next 5 years into Air India. You could as well do one lump sum and just write off that 25,000. It's an option. But the problem is, in a very simple layman's language, it's like a viewer going for a car saying, Dad, give me some money because I can't afford the EMI. The EMI is 4,000 a year. So what the government is infusing into the airline is not for the airline to run on a day-to-day basis, but to pay the loans. So in any case, you have to take actions by 25,000 crores, which are Air India's assets. Like the famous building on Nariman Point, they have assets all over, Air India colonies, just they have to be sold. The professionalism and accountability can be brought in by getting a strategic partner. That is the point being thought of when you said, what is the government up to? I think that is one option. There are two other options I have in mind. Number one is you have an oversight committee. At the moment, as Ganapathy rightly said, you have an IRS officer who's running an Air India. World over, the airline heads of national carriers are hard-boiled professionals who have served in the civil aviation sector for 3 decades and more, and only then can occupy the top slot. Here you have an additional secretary who was running the Department of Veterinary. He now runs Air India. I mean, come on. Yes, he's I have no doubt, he's a very competent person. But this is the margins are so low, profit margins. Efficiency levels are required to be so high. Your competition is fierce. Now, one of the accusations which is made against the previous government, and this is Supreme Court ordering a CBI inquiry, is that you actually gave away rights of Air India, which would have made it run into profit, to private airlines. Right. So that is also a reality. I am not making accusation. I am only putting on the table what the CBI FIR says.
Sure.
So therefore, that will go, because once you have a professional airline, it will be run professionally. If somebody from the ministry or the Prime Minister says, I want it this way, they'll say, sorry sir, we are a professional airline. That's how it's done. Business is done all over. Last point, Frank, I'd like to make is, I think the way forward is institutional framework by which public institutions, banks, selected lenders, they can form what could be a consortium. And they can actually sit down together in a mission mode. In the next 1 month, they can give Ashok, Ganapathy, Raju and Jayant Sinha a restructuring plan based on financial management. You may not have to sell the assets. You may have other routes by which people will pump in money, become what is called the strategic partner. Air India will fly high. Government doesn't have to pump in money. And let's move forward. It's the first or 2 steps towards the final privatization. 5 years down the line, we can look at the issue again.
Okay.
But if you do too much of this,
we've done that in the past as well. So why not give it?
That's right. That's exactly the point.
Okay, fair enough. Rajesh, I'm going to ask you to wear your other hat. Not your BJP hat, but your hat of a chartered accountant, because that's what you are by profession. These options suggested by our panelists, do you think that they are viable in the long run? Maybe write off some of the debts that Air India has, try and, uphold the cultural importance really of something like an Air India and take it forward and give it another chance, make a turnaround as far as, the system that it works in right now, and then see if it really works and something happens down the line?
I'll be categorically saying that it is not viable to take so much of a debt burden for years together, where servicing debt is leading to loss, because there is a huge cost of servicing the debt which is leading to loss here. I can again say one more thing, that after this current government came into power in the year 2014-15, the loss was 5,800 crore. It came down to 3,800 crore. They had taken several steps so that they can improve the efficiency and they can create some profit. But then also it is never possible with such a burden of debt on hand. Definitely I will say that 25,000 crore is the estimated amount of whatever flight they are having, and 5,000 to 10,000 can be taken from the real estate. But then still, if we recover 35,000 crore, still 15,000 crore debt shortfall is there. So being a chartered accountant, I can say that privatization or definitely disinvestment can be one of the best option, because it cannot go hand in hand in other way. One more thing, few wrong decisions which had created the problem. It was 2007 when the merger was done. None of the benefit, no synergy was planned and merger was done. And without synergy, if any merger is done, it is definitely burdensome. At the same time, I'm very astonished to know how 111 new aircrafts were procured by taking further debt, when the Air India is already into a loss making big giant hathi, I can say elephant, which was regularly putting up the pressure. And the third and most important thing, the important routes which were profitable routes, they were given off. How can that be done by Air India, that those profitable routes were given off to the private aircraft carriers? So it is never possible. And another, the leasing was also not done in the best possible way. So this type of decisions which were not appropriate had turned the problem. I can say from 2005 to 2007 these decisions were taken, and 2007 the merger was done. After that, since 2012 we are pumping in money, but still nothing happens. Definitely there need to be some very strong action by which I think disinvestment or privatization, by which the burden of the government or the government money should not, the taxpayers money should not flow into all those things. That is my clear view.
Yes. Marshal, I'll just come to you. Before that, let Ganapathy make a point as well. You know, as far as corrective measures are concerned, the time for corrective measures are over. Do you think, as far as Air India is concerned, I mean, there is no turning back now? Should we just do away with Air India completely?
Frank, everybody knows what the problem is. Total lack of accountability. Has anybody been made accountable for these huge losses? All the loans that have been taken, all the wrong decisions that have been taken? Nothing. No action has ever been taken, because it is all fine within the government family. When there is a bureaucrat or a politician who is flying by Air India or earlier Indian Airlines or Air India, all VIP treatment is given to him, etc., etc., at the cost of the passenger who is paying much more money from his own pocket. Probably the politician or the MLA, MP or minister may be traveling with government money, but he is getting all the attention, the others are getting no attention. So the customer lost their satisfaction in Air India, and they lost faith in Air India. That's why all the business has gone to the private airlines. And the private guys are profit oriented, no doubt, but at the same time they are also maintaining their quality. If the Air India had done that, they would not have done so badly. Secondly, only because Supreme Court ordered CBI to investigate, now they are investigating the purchase of aircraft, now they are investigating the merger, now they are investigating the lease, and they are trying to find out what is what. And but all these things are coming after so many years. All the people who would have been the decision makers now would have retired and gone. In the government, they are not there because there is a new government in place. What are you going to do now? You are wasting time, and at the same time not improving the situation on ground. Still unionized workers, protests, this, that all happen. The management is not able to impose its will. How can you function like this? Is a service industry where you should be able to tell the employee to take care of the customer, and each and every customer should be treated as God. Otherwise, he is not going to be with you. No wonder Indigo has become the largest airline. People are flying by Indigo. People are flying by SpiceJet, etc.
Sure.
Not because of any great reason. Only because they think at least these aircraft, these airlines will fly on time. I will reach my destination on time. There will be a Air India pilot who will say, I will not fly because you have not listened to me. My favorite is not there, etc. Those kinds of things are there. That should be completely eliminated.
Sure.
Basically, I can say if something is coming that some wrong decisions were taken, or there can be something. I am not predicting today because definitely there is an investigation going on, so I shouldn't predict. But if some wrong decisions were taken or some malicious activity was there which has led to further loss, definitely we need not, if we smell something, we cannot run off and we cannot say that the government is not at all there, and we should not investigate into it. Investigation should go, and whatever comes out, the truth will come out. It should not eat
accountability
the money
will
of
be
the
fixed is
taxpayer
what
and
you're
the
saying.
governments. Yeah.
Accountability will be fixed and there's nothing to worry about.
And one more thing, there was a committee on good governance which was formulated on December 31st. I can say that on 20th of January, a report was given to President in which 12 members were secretaries who had given a presentation to Honorable Prime Minister. They categorically told that we should not go on for this ITDC aircraft business and all this type of business which are running short from the taxpayers' money.
Quick closing comment from you, Marshal. I'm out of time.
Okay. 4 points.
Very quickly though, 4 points.
Point one is that mistakes have been made, they can be undone. For example, we bought aircraft when we couldn't afford it. Trend then was leasing. We didn't choose the leasing option.
Sure.
You could do an outright sale of our aircraft today, monetize them and go for leasing option. Secondly, the government is telling private sector day in and day out, apropos Malia, that if you are getting into trouble in terms of debt, please sell your assets, get in a new partner, and then move on to run a business which can make profit.
Right.
So, I mean, the question that will be asked is, why doesn't the government do it itself? It has its own Air India.
Yeah.
Third is the question is, I mean, you put a very thoughtful rider to our deliberation. Okay, privatize, but who will come in? That is why I suggested that you first get the financial viability of the airline into some kind of shape.
Right.
That is these 2-3 incremental steps. It doesn't mean we are not doing surgery. We are doing the...
I'm sorry, I'll have to cut you short there, Marshal.
So I think that is a route well taken.
All right, I'll have to cut you short there because I'm out of time on the program today. Thank you to all my guests, Ganapathy Subramaniam, Air Vice Marshal Kapil and Rajesh Sharma as well. That's all the time we have on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you for watching. See you again next time.